Well, I'm going to continue the trend of unexpected picks, I think, with my final choice for hand-to-hand combat. And I will say, before I get into what I did choose, I wanted to pick something that was maybe left field for this theme. And my first thought was, well, I'm going to do Stallone's Over the Top. What better choice for hand-to-hand combat than an arm wrestling movie?
Two hands touching each other.
Two hands touching each other. But boy, I watched it, and I had never seen it.
Yeah.
And that movie is fucking terrible. So it's so bad. Maybe there's a theme that it fits, but it's
sounds like something I would like.
give it a shot. But I am going to go with 1987's Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
Yeah. And I still think I think that it has an unexpected quality, which we'll get to. But before we do, back of the box, Ash Williams, played by Bruce Campbell, is once again battling horrifying demons at a secluded cabin in the woods. After discovering an audio tape left by a college professor that contains a reading from the Book of the Dead, Ash's girlfriend becomes possessed by evil spirits that are awakened by the voices on the tape. Ash soon discovers there is no escaping the woods. Tagline for this movie: the sequel to the ultimate experience in grueling horror. I had gone a long time thinking that this was just a remake or a reboot of the original, but
in some ways it is.
In some ways it is.
The first 15 minutes is.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes, but then there it is in the credits, the sequel to the. So interesting.
I think that's actually something that has been a point of contention in the video store community for a long time, because I think a lot of people assumed it was just kind of a remake, and I think that was kind of initially how it was conceived. I think Sam Raimi even was like, okay, we'll just kind of do that again and just do it differently.
Yeah.
And the studio was like, well, it's a sequel because we can call it Evil Dead 2 and people know it the first way. So it's kind of a marketing thing. But essentially what they did was they took the first movie, turned it into a 15-minute vignette at the beginning of this movie, and just did something else for the rest of it.
Yeah. Something else entirely.
Yes.
Evil Dead 2, as well as the first and third movies in the saga, come to us, as you mentioned, by way of Sam Raimi. People probably know Sam from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy, or Drag Me to Hell, A Simple Plan, The Quick and the Dead, Darkman.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good shit.
He's done a lot of good shit.
Nothing as good as Evil Dead 2, in my opinion.
Oh no, he a lot of people might recognize him from the most recent Doctor Strange movie, yeah. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Back into the comic book thing.
Really, though, in spite of the fact that he's deviated from the genre a little bit, Sam's wheelhouse, definitely horror. I feel like that's what he does so well. It feels like it was the genre that he was born to direct, and he proves it with this movie. Like his visual style is so unique with the push-ins, the point of view camera, the looming shadows,
but this movie also kind of proves like the opposite of what you just said, because I think that it was like he's like innately gifted for this kind of filmmaking, the horror genre especially, but he never really intended to be doing horror movies. When he was making movies, when he made The Evil Dead, and his story is real interesting. They would basically be making like movies to show at like the student union in college.
True.
That they would take the money from that and make the next movie, and there was like a little like mini business, and they figured out that the easiest way to get return on investment was to make these small horror movies, and so he never wanted to necessarily be doing horror movies. It was just the easiest way to keep making movies and keep making your money back. And so that's why his, quote, horror movies oftentimes have all these other genres injected into them, because he's like, I don't want to make a horror movie. I want to make a Three Stooges movie.
And he does comedy so well. I mean, it shows up in all of his horror, and it's very much present in Evil Dead. But yeah, it in spite of the fact that he might not necessarily want this to be his sole genre, he's so good at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why did I choose this movie? If the theme is hand-to-hand combat, what fits better than a movie where a guy has to literally fight off his own severed hand. So this is the scene. This scene where Ash Williams has to fight his own severed hand. That's the scene that was featured in the Robert Englund special. They play the whole thing in spite of the fact that it was on cable TV. And it's that scene and being introduced to it in that way is one of the reasons that I fell in love with horror. And I think the scene to this day still holds up. In fact, in spite of the fact that this is a movie from 1987. So the whole scene is a great piece of physical acting on the part of Bruce Campbell. A lot of scenes where the characters in this movie are fighting off the undead. And if that was all that happened, I wouldn't be putting this on the shelf tonight. But the hand-to-hand combat scene,
man versus hand,
really makes it special. Like I said, it's got a fair bit of comedy. There's a scene where the severed hand flicks off Ash. There's also a moment where Bruce Campbell's character traps the hand under a bucket and weighs the bucket down with a stack of books, and the book on top is A Farewell to Arms.
That's such like a simple joke. This movie is straight up hilarious.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
It's so good.
And you know what? It's genuinely scary at a couple points.
It is.
And it was real I was trying to figure out which one I liked better, the first Evil Dead or this one, and it's definitely this one.
Yeah, this one really just propelled Raimi forward.
It's got everything.
It does. And it sets up Army of Darkness in a wonderful way at the end of the movie.
Also great.
Also great. Funnier than Evil Dead, but still a wonderful entry into the whole Evil Dead saga.